Hey out there, fellow Earthlings, yoga buddies, near and far, past and future. There's a whole lot to say about yoga, and I find myself feeling the urge to put it out there somehow. Books need to be written still, but anyway, in the meantime, there's a few fundamental things that I'm going to start sharing with you about hatha yoga practice. A lot of this has been lost, and it's been lost more and more quickly and been lost more thoroughly in the last 10 years. Probably it's 2024 now. Yeah, especially in the past 10 years, but even in the past 30. Putting yoga into a market system and combining it with North American fitness trends has reduced it to just a slice, like just a sliver of what it is and what its potential is. And I know a lot of you know this, but this has to do with how we approach our practice. And yoga is so holistic and so focused on inner success, inner work. But since most of us have been introduced to it in a way that's just gotten caught up in the market system and catering to what people think they want, catering to people's, even schedules and convenience poses a problem. Now, of course, I acknowledge we want to have access to yoga, right? So there's certainly challenges, but something really basic and fundamental to understand is that we generally I'm just going to say, I'm in Michigan, North America, public school system, even the very best school systems, private schools, everything. We have been trained for external skills, external success, external accomplishment, which we need to survive in the material world. I'm not saying that should go away. We do need a very basic, absolutely. We need a basic training in how to get along in the world, speaking, reading, writing. You could say math and science, social sciences, all this stuff is super important. But what is almost entirely missing from the whole thing is internal success, internal work, how to use our own human systems to function in the world in a way that does not leave us totally wrecked by the stresses and surroundings and the challenges of the world. I imagine a world, some sort of utopia where, anyway, we have at least an hour a day of working with our internal systems and looking at what does to be internally successful mean. We have so many stresses around us, so many challenging situations, relationships, world events, politics, just the workplace, family situations, that we don't know how to buffer ourselves or cope with, really. The statistics for stress and low states of mental health are just astronomical. But all this being said, when we walk into a yoga class, we've come from a externally focused material world. So our conditioned tendency is to think, well, what's wrong with this situation? Why is this difficult? What could I change about the circumstance? Is it a little too hot? Is it a little too cold? Is the teacher going a little too fast, holding it a little too long? The person next to me is not concentrating. We can find a dozen things, if not 100 in a single class, that we can allow to bother us. Our senses are trained for outside. In yoga, we are training the internal senses. So I put this out here for you to catch yourself, whether you're new, whether you've been doing it 5 years or more, 10 years or more, 20 years or more. Anytime you observe yourself having the thought, if the circumstance, fill in the blank, were just slightly different, then I would be happy. This is the trap of the mind that yoga is trying to help us deal with, one of the traps, but that's a big fundamental trap. So if anytime you catch yourself saying, oh, I just wish we would hold this a little longer, or I want to hold it a little longer, I wish the room were just a little hotter, I wish I were sweating a little more or a little less, and the implication of that is that if condition A were met, then I would have a good class. If condition B were met, then I would be happy. These are perpetual traps, and we will never, ever be satisfied as long as the thought process is in that pattern of looking for, if condition A is met, then things will be better somehow. All right, it's often implied. We don't often say to ourselves, oh, then I'll have a good class if such and such thing were happening outside of me. The whole point of this is our senses are still directed outward. The whole project here is to turn them inward. The only thing, the only and the main fundamental responsibility in any hatha yoga practice is that you are focusing on what you can do in the moment to respond. Maybe if it's a little hotter than usual, you need to do less. If it's a little harder for whatever reason, you need to slow down the breathing. If so-and-so next to you is doing something crazy, that's the best opportunity to say, I will not let anything take my peace. If you notice other people being distracted around you, not my business. I'm here to focus on the inside. So this can be a weird shift at first. We're so conditioned, so trained to focus on what we can do outside of us to make the situation improved, which is wonderful, all right, for survival purposes. But we're at that point where we're surviving, but we're no longer thriving because we're so tuned into the external. So when you come into the practice, just turn all your senses inward to your breathing, to what you feel inside the body, and you will achieve tremendous inner success. Guaranteed will happen. See you in class.